Welcome back to Tempest. In a few seconds, you're going to listen to a frightening tale narrated by me. Fear awaits you, watch out and take care. The people of the colony house are preparing a party for Fatima. Julie finds it strange that they are congratulating Fatima for getting stuck in that place. However, Fatima sees the celebration as a marking of survival. Fatima digs under her bed where she has a secret suitcase. She hides her favorite things there so that Trudy can't get her hands on them. Fatima wears her favorite yellow sweater. Julie commends how Fatima makes the whole situation look normal. She calls Fatima special, to which Fatima replies they are all special. Elliot comes and invites the girls for a pre-game. Fatima looks a bit upset that Elliot is already drinking so much. Nights like this remind Elliot of people who didn't make it. As Elliot leaves to find Victor, Fatima hands a cute dress to Julie. In the kitchen, Victor is looking for his peaches. Donna tells him that the peaches are all out. For Victor, peaches were the only thing that didn't change all these years. Donna apologizes as there's nothing she can do to help him. Kevin, one of the colony house members, leaves another bouquet on the porch. The sun is setting and Sheriff Boyd is ringing the bell to notify everyone it's time to shut the doors. Kenny knocks on Jade's door and asks him to join them for dinner downstairs. Father Cautry is waiting outside the sheriff's house. He says it's urgent, so the sheriff invites him in. Upon entering the house, Father Cautry notices Sheriff Boyd is packing everything as if he is preparing to leave. Tabitha and Jim are double-checking the safety precautions in the house. The windows and doors are nailed shut. Jim assures Ethan that even if he wanted to, he can't let any of the creatures in. When Tabitha expresses concern about Julie living alone in the colony house, Jim tells her that Donna is capable of keeping the colony house secure. Jim is trying to establish a good radio tower for sending and receiving signals. However, he may need all of the building supplies in town as well as a location on the high terrain near the colony house to accomplish this. So, Jim is concerned that the tower may or may not work. At the colony house, Donna gives a heartwarming speech about Fatima and her kindness. Donna gives her a dream catcher. Fatima kisses a stranger at the party, making Julie feel uncomfortable. Father Cautry shows Sheriff his buried bag. Father Cautry tells the events of his life before arriving here. There was a small boy in Father Cautry's congregation. One day, he found the kid outside the rectory after church. The boy was upset and wished to remain there for some time. Father Cautry needed to prepare for the evening mass and didn't want his parents to be concerned, so he gave the boy a candy bar and sent him home. Worried about the boy, he made a house call that night and discovered him lying in the living room with his intoxicated father imploring him to stand up. The father indignantly said, "He will be fine." Father Cautry couldn't control his emotions and smacked the father of the boy right in the face. As Father Cautry was driving from the incident, he arrived in the town. Sheriff Boyd questions Father Cautry about the significance of all of this. He admits to having Sarah chained up in the basement. Boyd is enraged because he kept Sarah alive despite insisting on Frank's death. However, because Father Cautry suggests that Sarah may hold the answer to all of this, the sheriff decides to give Sarah another chance. Kevin climbs upstairs in the colony house and talks to a girl named Jasmine who is standing outside. She exploits him by telling him she can no longer love him because he is terrified of her and refuses to let her in. Jasmine assures Kevin that she would be the only one let in, allowing them to finally love and touch one another. Kevin, persuaded by the words, opens the window and lets Jasmine in. However, Jasmine bites his tongue off as soon as they kiss. In the kitchen, Elliot almost gets into a fight and so he heads upstairs to rest and calm down. Fatima finds Trudy sitting alone and talks to her. Trudy thinks she won't get a party like this. To comfort her, Fatima gives away her favorite sweater. Trudy wants to give something to Fatima from her secret stash. Julie asks Fatima why she would kiss a girl if Elliot and her are a thing. Fatima says that it was just fooling around and that Elliot and her are the real thing. This makes Julie ask if she could kiss Fatima, but she immediately leaves feeling awkward. Father Cautry and the sheriff are discussing Sarah. Sheriff Boyd is skeptical that the voices are trying to help the people. Father Cautry suggests that he and Sarah also accompany Boyd and use Sarah's connection. Tabitha has been digging in the house the entire time. Jim requests that she sit with Ethan while he takes over. Kevin is in pieces in the colony house and Jasmine leaves the window open. A night of celebration quickly transforms into a night of terror. Julie requests to spend some time in Victor's room. Victor is confronted by her about the graves. She also inquires about the town, as Victor has spent the most time here. Jade discovers an old photograph of a man at Kenny's house. Mrs. Liu notices Victor in the background right away. Trudy discovers Jasmine in a room in the colony house and follows Jasmine to the room to face her tragedy. The house soon realizes that the monsters have entered. Fatima goes in search of Elliot and Julie while Donna leads the others to the town. Victor guides Julie into the forest as he sees the boy in white guiding them towards a faraway tree. Elliot walks down from his room as the screaming continues. He panics when he discovers Trudy with Fatima's sweater. When he stumbles upon one of the creatures, he jumps out the window. Fatima finds him on the ground hurt and takes him inside. She uses the stone to seal themselves in between the doors. Victor puts Julie into one of the faraway trees. He tells Julie to find her brother and warn him. Julie gets inside the tree hole but soon exits out of the cellar. Sheriff Boyd soon hears the car and helps the people in. He asks Donna where Elliot is, but Donna has no clue about Elliot or Julie. While helping the people in, Father Kotri gets hurt and eventually dies. Sheriff Boyd prays with the father during his last moments. The next day Kenny comes to Sheriff Boyd and informs him about the arrangement of the people from the colony house. He wants the sheriff to say some good words to the people of the town, but the sheriff has something more important to do. He goes to the church's basement and talks to Sarah. A flashback shows the moments when Sheriff Boyd and his family reached the town. Both Boyd and his wife had excellent military careers before retiring to civilian life. They were having a lovely family moment as Boyd's wife calls him by his nickname Mr. Fish and Loaves. They eventually faced the broken tree in the middle of the road. Back in the present, Sarah is walking in the woods with Boyd as she asks about Father Kotri. She doesn't know about the attack on the colony house, so Boyd fills her in. Sheriff Boyd shows no mercy and informs Sarah that the only reason she is alive is that Father Kotri thought she would be useful in sending people home. Julie has found her way back home. Ethan says that they need to find Victor. Jim asks how Julie managed to get out of the house. She informs about the trees and how Victor said it all started. As Julie panics and cries, Jade suddenly interrupts and asks her about Victor. Jim becomes defensive and kicks Jade out of the house. Back to Boyd's arrival in the town. Like other people, Boyd also drove around trying to find the highway. However, as he passes by the town, Father Kotri stops their car and begs them to get inside. Boyd and his wife become confused and take out their gun, but Father Kotri said it is all right to point at him, but they need to follow him if they don't want to die. Father Kotri hides Boyd and his family in the basement. There we can see Donna and others hiding hopelessly. Back at the colony house, Jade and Jim propose that they want to build a tower on the roof of the house. Donna accepts without any hesitation. Boyd brings Sarah to a shed in the forest. He tells her to sit there and wait for him to get back. During Boyd's flashback, the morning comes and Boyd with his family witnesses death for the first time. Boyd comes up with a plan to secure the place for everyone. In the present, Ethan is looking at the drawing made by Victor that Julie brought with her. Tabitha finds Julie sitting in the basement where she asks about the divorce. Tabitha recalls the last time with Thomas. She tells Julie that after Thomas died, something broke inside Tabitha and Jim. Even though they pretended to be alright, it eventually broke their relationship. At the diner, people are trying to get supplies for themselves. Boyd tries to calm the people down. They are upset because the colony house people are let inside. During a flashback, Boyd decides to gather people for a scavenger hunt in the forest to gather supplies. Elliot sees his mother staring at the roads of the town. After a few days, soon he finds a goat in the forest. Elliot borrows Boyd and tells him about how his mother is losing her mind. But Boyd is fixated on helping people and finding answers. As he was marking trees, he walked deep inside the forest following a dog. He realizes that he has lost his way and tries to walk out of the forest. He falls inside a cave when he sees the people-like creatures outside. The creatures don't attack him and leave. Boyd finds the talisman in the cave and he gathers them. In the present, Boyd comes to see Elliot. He informs Elliot that he is setting out. Elliot is angry with his father for all that happened with his mother. He didn't want to listen to his father's words. So Boyd says some words of goodbye. Elliot still doesn't respond to Boyd and so Boyd leaves. Fatima asks Elliot to stop blaming his father and to consider his feelings from that day onwards as well. Back in the past, when Boyd returns from the woods, he finds his wife shooting the people of the town with her gun. As Abby tries to shoot Donna, she explains that everything in this town is a dream and she can only wake up by waking everyone. Boyd stops Abby and tells her that he found something. However, she said that Boyd couldn't have survived the night, so it was all a dream. In the meantime, Elliot comes running toward Abby and she tries to shoot Elliot. Boyd had no choice but to shoot Abby to protect Elliot. In the present, Boyd takes his stuff and heads toward the shed. Elliot follows Boyd into the woods and he apologizes. Sarah steps out of the shed and Elliot gets upset. Boyd asks Elliot to trust him and asks him to leave. Near the diner, Kenny and Donna ask their people to cooperate. Jim starts building the tower with the help of others. Sheriff Boyd starts his quest with Sarah. Sarah is taken to the cave where the sheriff discovered the talisman. Everyone is working hard to get the tower up and running. Tabitha has been digging in the basement and finds herself on an ever-expanding stairway. She screams in terror as she sees Jim hanging upside down. It turns out to be a dream, and Tabitha is upset by it. Back at the sheriff's office, a young man named Elliot hangs himself. Fatima tells Elliot that they are not the same person. It will be tough for them to return to their normal lifestyles. Sarah and Boyd are walking deeper into the forest. On their way, Boyd marks the trees. At the house, Ethan tells Julie and Tabitha that these drawings are a story. They need to arrange the drawings to understand what the next move will be. But no one pays attention to Ethan's words. At the colony house, Jim and Jade are freaking out as they don't have any batteries. Jade again throws out the idea of Victor in the symbol. But Jim is not ready to hear anything out and focuses on making the tower. Kenny asks Donna if she is okay. But Donna is upset about Eric's death, saying they don't need the house anymore. In the woods, Sarah and Boyd are still walking when they suddenly hear some noises. They find a tree with a lot of bottles hanging. As Boyd tries to get a bottle down, Sarah starts to go haywire again. Donna is very upset and Kenny asks what is she grieving, to which she replies that she is grieving the loss of the place it almost became. She is disappointed that Jim and Jade got everyone's hopes high for a thing that might not work. Jade complains about the work with Jim to Mrs. Liu. He tells her there is no source of power in this town that will keep the tower running for days and weeks. Mrs. Liu shows the endless electric supply in houses, which clicks an idea in Jade's mind. At the house, Jim and others are digging the basement even deeper. The lights in the hallway can be seen flickering. In the forest, Sarah wakes up in the tent. Boyd puts out a talisman so it's safe. Sarah tells Boyd about the voices. The voices said, "Tell Mr. Fish and Loaves I was wrong." This surprises Boyd. Suddenly they hear some strange noise. The tent is aggressively attacked. After a long while, the shake stops and is followed by an eerie siren-like sound. Soon outside their tent, they see a very bright light. Back in the house, Jade barges in and shows how he figured out the way to turn the electricity on. He puts wires in one of the outlets of the mysterious lamps and puts the bulb back in these new wires to power any device. At the diner, they inform the others of the discovery and people head out to gather wires. In the forest, Boyd and Sarah get out of the tent and see their surroundings covered with large spider webs. At the colony house, Elliot proposes to Fatima. Boyd and Sarah continue their journey. Sarah doesn't want to go further. As they talk, Boyd hears a woman calling out, and as he follows the voice he sees his dead wife inside a tree covered with spider webs. He gets scared and walks back. A lot of spiders crawl on him and begin to bite. Sarah helps Boyd get the spiders off his back. At the colony house, Ethan wishes Victor was there to see the tower being built. Jim assures Ethan that Victor is safe wherever he is. Ethan agrees and says that Victor is probably doing his part. In the forest, Sarah and Boyd are still walking without any end in sight. Boyd has been panicking ever since the spiders. He suddenly screams in pain and feels like he is going to give up. Sarah reminds Boyd that he needs to see his son. Jade goes to Kenny's house as he needs to get something. He finds Mrs. Liu grieving her husband. Jade comforts her and they pray together for Mr. Liu. Christy finds Kenny and returns his lamp. She confesses that she doesn't know what to do with her life. She also wants to go to Iceland with one of the most amazing guys she has ever met. Everyone slowly puts the tower up and connects every wire in the house. They finally get a signal and rejoice at the success. But their joy is short-lived as a huge storm is coming their way. Boyd wants to give up. They can hear the weird siren once more. As they near the top, they notice a lighthouse that is sounding the alarm and flashing the light. Jim continues to send a signal and a voice responds to the signal. The voice responds with Jim's name and informs him that his wife should not be digging that hole. Jim hurries to their home in search of Tabitha. Tabitha eventually breaks through the floor and falls inside. Tabitha is discovered underground by Victor. Victor had been waiting since the boy and White informed him Tabitha would go underground. He shows Tabitha the drawings on the walls. Victor claims that this location is unsafe and that it is where the monsters sleep. Soon the ceiling comes crashing down and Victor moves Tabitha away. Jim reaches home and finds a huge hole in the house. Boyd is unable to walk anymore. He finally gives up and instructs Sarah to hurry to safety before the sun goes down. Sarah notices the boy in white saying that Nathan was right. The place is angry as people are trying to leave the place. He points Sarah at the faraway tree. Sarah calls Boyd inside first and informs him that she will follow him. Boyd finds himself encircled by walls once he enters the tree. He panics and screams for help. A song is playing on the radio in the diner and a coach bus arrives in town indicating the arrival of new residents. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.